A serial killer, strictly speaking, is a person who kills at least two people in distinct incidents that take place at various times. Although there is no legal definition of serial murder, serial killers' crimes are frequently picked up on by the media and the general public, particularly when there are numerous victims or the killings are carried out in a graphic manner. The following list explores some of the most horrendous serial killers the world has ever known. Before starting, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more future updates. So let's start. Number 10. Jeffrey Dahmer, the Milwaukee Cannibal. American serial killer Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer, sometimes referred to as the Milwaukee Cannibal, was active between 1978 and 1991. He is suspected of raping, killing, and dismembering 17 men and boys. He is also known to have engaged in cannibalism, necrophilia, and the long-term storage of body parts. When he was only 18 years old and it was the summer of 1978, Dahmer murdered his first victim. Stephen Mark Hicks, a young hitchhiker, was picked up by him, taken to his house, and strangled to death. He started collecting body parts from his victims as trophies as his infatuation with human viscera grew. He confessed to cooking and eating his victims after police discovered 3 heads and body parts in the refrigerator. Additionally, Dahmer attempted to turn his victims into zombies. At first he tried sleeping pills. Then, while they were still conscious, he drilled holes in their heads and filled them with acid and boiling water. His arrest took place on July 22, 1991. Number 9. Harold Frederick Shipman, Dr. Death. The British physician Harold Frederick Shipman is deserving of the moniker, Dr. Death. Although the total number of victims may have reached 250, he was convicted guilty of the murders of over 218 of his patients. Additionally, he is the only British physician who has been convicted guilty of killing his patients. The Angel of Death was another name for him. He administered fatal amounts of painkillers to kill his victims. Shipman falsified his patients' wills so he could receive their money, then gave them an overdose of morphine to murder them. Although the police were unable to locate any evidence against Shipman, the local undertaker was concerned about the high mortality rate of Shipman's patients. An autopsy indicated that Kathleen Grundy, an affluent 81-year-old widow, had overdosed on morphine before she passed away. He was detained, charged, and found guilty. On January 13, 2004, he hanged himself in his cell. Number 8. Ted Bundy. Over 30 young women were abused and killed by American serial killer, rapist, and burglar Theodore Robert Bundy. The murderous rampage of Ted Bundy began in 1974. He pretended to be injured to get his victims to his car. He also tricked ladies into believing him by using his charisma. He would lead them to a remote location, overwhelm them, and kill them. Even though it smelled bad, he occasionally returned to the body for several hours at a time to engage in sexual activity with the dead. He gained some notoriety throughout his trial due to his charm and brilliance. He battled for years to prevent being put to death, but he was caught eventually, and on January 24, 1989, he was put to death. Number 7. The Zodiac Killer. In the late 1960s, Northern California was the scene of the Zodiac Killer's crimes. Investigators believe the as yet unidentified culprit may have had as many as 37 victims, despite the fact that he is known to have killed at least 5 people. On December 20, 1968, David Faraday and his girlfriend Betty Lou Jensen were shot dead in front of their car, marking the beginning of the Zodiac Killer's spree. The killings lacked a purpose, and investigators were unable to pin down the offender. The killer's peculiar habit of sending ciphers and encrypted messages to the police and media gave rise to the nickname, Zodiac. Number 6. Ed Gein, the Butcher of Plainfield. The Butcher of Plainfield was a serial killer and corpse thief by the name of Edward Theodore Gein. He admitted to killing Bernice Worden in 1957 and Mary Hogan in 1954. Additionally, it was discovered that he had exhumed bodies from nearby cemeteries in order to use the bones and skin to create artifacts. When police entered his home, they discovered Worden's headless body, with all of her internal organs taken, hanging upside down by her legs. Numerous human bones, bowls carved from human skulls, masks made from head skin, fingernails, etc. were also present. On July 26, 1984, he passed away from cancer after being admitted to a psychiatric institution due to his unstable mental state. Number 5. John Wayne Gacy, Pogo the Clown. Between 1972 and 1978, John Wayne Gacy, an American serial killer and rapist, killed at least 33 adolescent boys and young men in Cook County, Illinois. He worked as a clown throughout the day at kids' events. Gacy used the promise of construction work to entice his victims, and after luring them, he sexually molested them before killing them, often by strangling or asphyxiation. He frequently referred to himself as Pogo the Clown to his victims. Gacy experienced alienation as a child due to his abusive father, like many serial killers. In the 1960s, he managed a fast food restaurant and coordinated social events where he performed as a clown. Number 4. Tsutomu Miyazaki, the human Dracula. Premature birth caused Tsutomu Miyazaki to have malformed hands. He started getting tormented at school as a result, and his grades started to suffer. He struggled with social interaction and acquired an inferiority mentality. Between 1988 and 1989, his mental state deteriorated to the point that he started kidnapping and murdering young girls. He was referred to as Dracula and the little girl murderer. He kidnapped Mari Kono, a 4-year-old, on August 22, 1988. He killed her by strangling her, sexually assaulted her corpse, and then left it to decompose before going back to take some of her body parts. Number 3. Ahmad Suradji, the Sorcerer. Ahmad Suradji, also referred to as the Sorcerer, was an Indonesian serial killer. According to reports, he killed 42 individuals between 1986 and 1997. His motivation for killing his victims and how he did it were the most horrific aspects. He asserted that in a dream, his late father had told him that becoming a mystic healer required him to consume the saliva of 70 deceased young women. He began killing young girls since it would take too long to find 70 ladies who passed away at an early age. Many women sought him out in search of wealth and beauty since he professed to be a shaman. After receiving payment, he would take them to a field of sugarcane and bury them there, telling them that it was all part of the ceremony. Number 2. The Night Stalker. American serial killer, rapist, and burglar Richard Ramirez was born in Texas in 1960. He started abusing drugs heavily and became interested in Satanism. Ramirez, sometimes referred to as the Night Stalker, operated between 1984 and 1985. Ramirez spent time with and looked up to his Vietnam War veteran cousin Mike when he was a little lad. Cousin Mike, on the other hand, was obsessed with assaulting women and showed young Richard images of the ladies he had slain in Vietnam. Finally, in full view of Ramirez, who was just 13 at the time, he shot his wife. Despite numerous other variables driving Ramirez's descent into darkness, this had an impact on him and caused him to become fascinated with violence. Before being apprehended in 1985, Ramirez had killed a total of 14 people and tortured dozens more. His 14-month murderous spree included gruesome killings, rapes, and robberies. Number 1. Jack the Ripper. By far the most notorious serial killer in history is Jack the Ripper. He is hardly the only serial killer with a higher victim count, but what sets him apart is how little is understood about him. A skilled and cunning serial killer, Jack the Ripper was able to conceal his identity, even from the renowned Scotland Yard Police Department. Since he spent much of 1888 in London's Whitechapel neighborhood, he is also sometimes referred to as the Whitechapel Murderer. Because they resided close to the slums, where there was less of a police presence, Jack the Ripper thought female sex workers would be simple targets. He disfigured the corpses in horrifying ways, which is what made the killings so horrific. The most heinous of all his deeds was the murder of Mary Jane Kelly. Her face had been chopped off, and her body was mangled beyond recognition. Her intestines were taken out and put underneath her. Her heart was removed from the crime scene, and her breasts had been severed. This is it for today's video. What do you think of our video? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more future updates. Thanks for watching.